When we smile, the whole world smiles with us. The lyrics of the classic song, When You're Smiling, seem almost tailor-made for the Joker. After the first installment, where the blood-red smile that the clown painted on his face turned the entire city into a giant circus chanting his name, he skipped his way down to the lowest depths of morality. Joker's descent into corruption was completed in a most convincing manner, culminating in his confinement behind the bars of Arkham Asylum, a perfect ending for such a monumental character. So, I have to admit I was both surprised and a little disappointed when director Todd Phillips decided to use the sequel, titled Folie, to attempt to reverse that trajectory. He throws Arthur Fleck into a sort of moral test, where he has to reckon with the lives he took. What is the point of this journey toward recovering the last bit of his humanity? What does it have to say about self-reflection and repentance? Phillips has 2 hours and 18 minutes to convince the audience of his vision. The starting point? Arthur's miserable time serving his sentence after killing 6 people, including famous talk show host Murray Franklin. The story takes a sharp turn when we learn about a trial where Arthur's lawyer argues that he could escape the death penalty if they can prove that Arthur Fleck and Joker are 2 completely separate personalities. Arthur must convince the jury that the man behind the makeup isn't really him, but a shell hiding the trauma of an abused, abandoned man, a monster born from psychological scars. From here, what the audience should prepare for in Joker Part 2 are numerous fantasy sequences, long and frequent, set almost entirely within the asylum walls. Gone are the rats, the heaps of garbage, and the filthy alleyways. Instead, we are plunged into the endless delusions inside the clown's mind. If you're expecting a return to Gotham, with its layered metaphors about class and social injustice, you'll likely be disappointed. This time, the battle is within Joker's mind as he tries to answer the question, between a Joker revered as a saint and a weak, cowardly Arthur Fleck, which is the real personality? This creates the first issue, a world lacking depth. The audience's empathy for Arthur Fleck in the first film was largely due to their shared frustration with Gotham's injustices. Without characters like Thomas Wayne preaching reform, the film loses a significant part of its timely social commentary, especially after the first film built up a large fanbase for the character. In this sequel, Joker's cult becomes almost insignificant, making noise but having little real impact on the plot, except for one explosive moment in the final act. It's unclear if Todd Phillips is mocking the idea of Joker as a hollow legend or has simply forgotten the disenfranchised masses he once represented. Either way, sidelining the main cause of Joker's madness sometimes trivializes his character. Moreover, setting the story in Arkham Asylum strips Arthur's suffering of the raw, visceral emotion it had when he was crawling through the filthy streets of Gotham. In Arkham, we're left with the same old criminals and cruel guards, nothing new or surprising. Initially, I thought the asylum would serve as a commentary on society's neglect of the mentally ill, but it barely scratches the surface. The inmates? Background noise. The abusive guards? Predictable. There's no exploration of power dynamics or the ordinary lives of Gotham's citizens, leaving Folie devoid of the layered complexity that made the first film so gripping. And let's talk about those reckless guards. Laying hands on Arthur the night before his trial? Really? Wouldn't just one word from Joker to the media send his army of fanatics after them? Where was that unhinged mob, ready to burn Gotham for their messiah? The absence of Joker's followers when he needed them most is baffling, undercutting the very chaos that once defined his power. It feels like a missed opportunity to amplify the tension and unleash the dark, anarchic energy the first film mastered so well. Everything becomes even more absurd during Arthur's trial, which Joker, as the judge aptly points out, turns into a circus. Sure, the film could be seen as a critique of media through its repeated shots of TVs and journalists circling like vultures, hungry for Joker's appearance on their screens to boost ratings, regardless of guilt or innocence. But with such a confined, detached narrative, the film feels one-dimensional, more of a showpiece for putting Joker in the filthiest situations with the worst people. Arthur has no choice but to cling to his delusions. The film fails to capture the same grimy essence of Gotham and, more importantly, doesn't succeed in delving into Joker's psyche. Despite sacrificing nearly every other aspect to focus on Arthur's inner turmoil, the film doesn't do a great job fleshing it out. To illustrate Joker's detachment from reality, Phillips chose to introduce musical elements to the story. Personally, mixing genres doesn't bother me because, as we know, Arthur always had music in his soul. It makes sense for him to dream of singing with a beautiful woman. However, the problem lies in the execution. Todd Phillips may not be very good at this. For some reason, all the musical numbers in the film follow the same formula: slow-motion shots, melancholy vocals, usually from Lady Gaga, and hallucinatory sequences. The first time it's fine, capturing a romantic atmosphere well, but by the fourth or fifth time, I grew impatient, hoping the tempo would pick up so the dance could just end. The film's over-reliance on these repetitive musical scenes doesn't help its pace. Aside from the title song we saw in the trailer, where Joker uses a hammer to attack the judge, most of the songs are sentimental ballads revolving around one theme: Joker's feelings for Harley Quinn, as if she's the new light of his life. But just adding more songs doesn't make a musical. The songs need to drive the story forward, which they don't. Almost the entire second act of the film stagnates, stuck in repetitive fantasy sequences showing the contrast between Arthur's harsh reality and his desire for love. We've already seen Arthur struggle with these questions in the first film. Why rehash them here through song? Arthur has already agonized over his identity before becoming Joker, so what exactly is the purpose of this sequel? With all that said, the only truly praiseworthy aspect of the musical segments is their visual beauty, gorgeous, painterly compositions, deliberate use of color, and, of course, another flawless performance from Joaquin Phoenix. He once again proves he is one of the most talented actors of his generation, and regardless of the film's flaws, the applause he receives is well deserved. As for Lady Gaga's portrayal of Harley Quinn, putting aside her appearance and acting skills, the character itself is surprisingly underdeveloped. Harley Quinn is introduced as a fan of Joker, falling in love with him at first sight, but she barely introduces herself. The title, Folie à Deux, refers to shared psychotic disorder, where one person's psychological issues influence another, and in the film, it likely refers to folie simultaneous, meaning two individuals who are independently insane but whose delusions become aligned when they're together. Contrary to early speculation that Joker would corrupt Harley, it seems she was already more insane than him. This makes their relationship contradictory to the film's themes. Why? Because Arthur Fleck, even in the first film, was a passive character. So, if even in his own mind, Arthur depends on Harley Quinn to define his identity, how can the audience empathize with his final transformation? If Joker's entire psyche is borrowed, why should we care about his choices? Ultimately, Joker feels like a small, pitiful figure, passed from one person to another, his identity reduced to a borrowed delusion. Despite Todd Phillips' clear attempt to go in a different direction with the sequel, it's hard to call it a success. Like Kafka once wrote in The Shore, it all begins with the imagination. Joker may have imagined himself as someone grand, but in this film, he feels more like an actor lost in a script he can't control. If you disagree with my take or enjoyed the second installment, feel free to leave a comment below so we can discuss it further. But for now, that's all, folks. See you next time, and as the song goes, hasta la vista, baby.